The water of the Mediterranean is a deep, bruised purple in the pre-dawn light. For centuries, this narrow stretch of sea, only 9 miles wide, served as a psychological and physical barrier between two worlds. To the north lay Europe, a continent struggling to find its footing after the collapse of the Western Roman Empire. To the south lay the burgeoning power of the Umayyad Caliphate, a force of energy, faith, and administrative brilliance that had swept from the deserts of Arabia to the shores of the Maghreb in less than a century. The year is 711. History is about to pivot on a single decision. We see the silhouette of Tariq ibn Ziyad standing on the prow of a lead ship. He is not merely a soldier, he is a symbol of a new era. The men following him are a mix of Arabs and Berbers, the people the Romans called Moris, from which we derive the term Moors. This documentary will explore how these people didn't just conquer a land, they cultivated a soul for a continent that had forgotten its own potential. For decades, popular history portrayed the Moorish arrival as a dark invasion. But as we peel back the layers of the Great Mosque of Córdoba and the red walls of the Alhambra, a different story emerges. It is a story of convivencia, coexistence. It is a story of how the lost works of Aristotle and Plato were saved by Arabic scholars. It is the story of how Europe learned to bathe, how it learned to eat, and how it learned to dream. To understand why the Moors were able to take the Iberian Peninsula so quickly, we must look at the state of the Visigothic kingdom. The Visigoths had ruled Spain for nearly 300 years, but by 710, the kingdom was a fractured shell. King Witiza had died, and the throne was seized by Roderick, a man whose legitimacy was questioned by many. The peasantry was overtaxed, and the Jewish population was facing brutal persecution under Visigothic law. Legend tells us of Count Julian, a governor of Ceuta, who allegedly invited the Moors across the strait to seek revenge against King Roderick. While historians debate the specifics of this betrayal, the geopolitical reality is clear. Al-Walid the Fens, the Umayyad caliph in Damascus, gave the order, and Musa ibn Nusayr, the governor of North Africa, dispatched Tariq ibn Ziyad. In July 711, the two armies met at the Battle of Guadalete. On one side, the heavy, clanking infantry of the Visigoths. On the other, the light, fast, and highly mobile Moorish cavalry. Roderick's army vanished into the marshes. With the king presumed dead, the Visigothic resistance crumbled like a sandcastle in the tide. Within 7 years, nearly the entire peninsula, modern-day Spain and Portugal, was under Muslim control. The newcomers named this land Al-Andalus. The etymology is debated. Some say it refers to the Vandals, who previously occupied the land, but the name came to signify something far greater than a province. It became a beacon. The story of the Moors takes a cinematic turn with the arrival of Abd al-Rahman al-Furfur. Following the bloody overthrow of the Umayyads by the Abbasids in Damascus, Abd al-Rahman was the sole survivor of his dynasty. He fled across North Africa, chased by assassins, finally reaching Al-Andalus in 755. He established the Emirate of Córdoba, effectively breaking away from the central caliphate and creating an independent, thriving Western Islamic state. While London and Paris were little more than muddy villages with thatched roofs, Córdoba became the largest and most prosperous city in Europe. By the 10th century, it boasted a population of 500,000 people. Imagine walking through the streets of 10th century Córdoba. You would find 700 mosques, 60,000 palaces, and, most importantly, 70 libraries. The Great Library of Córdoba alone held over 400,000 volumes. The Mezquita, or Great Mosque of Córdoba, stands as the ultimate architectural testament to this era. Its forest of columns, over 850 pillars of jasper, onyx, and marble, supported double-tiered arches of red and white. This wasn't just a place of prayer, it was a statement of mathematical precision and aesthetic grace. The light filtering through the arches represented the divine light of knowledge. The Moors revolutionized daily life. They introduced the concept of changing clothes according to the season, linen in the summer, wool in the winter. They brought the three-course meal, soup followed by meat or fish, followed by fruit and nuts. They introduced the oud, which would evolve into the European lute and eventually the guitar. They brought the game of chess from the East, turning it into a pastime for the European nobility. The Moors were the bridge between the ancient world and the modern. While the works of Aristotle, Galen, and Ptolemy were lost to the Latin-speaking West, they were being translated into Arabic in the centers of Al-Andalus. Scholars like Averroes, Ibn Rushd, and Maimonides, a Jewish philosopher born in Córdoba, engaged in a profound dialogue about the relationship between faith and reason. Al-Zahrawi, known to the West as Albucasis, practiced in the outskirts of Córdoba. He is considered the father of modern surgery. His 30-volume medical encyclopedia, the Kitab al-Tasrif, illustrated over 200 surgical instruments, many of which, like the forceps and the scalpel, remain fundamentally unchanged today. He was the first to use catgut for internal stitches and the first to describe the hereditary nature of hemophilia. The Moorish obsession with the stars was not merely for astrology, but for navigation and timing prayers. They perfected the astrolabe, a complex analog computer that allowed sailors to determine their latitude by the position of the sun and stars. This technology would later be handed to European explorers, directly enabling the voyages of the Age of Discovery. Perhaps their most lasting impact was on the Earth itself. The Moors brought sophisticated irrigation systems, the acequias, and the water wheel. They introduced crops that are now synonymous with the Mediterranean: oranges, lemons, pomegranates, figs, sugarcane, and cotton. They turned the arid plains of southern Spain into a lush, fertile garden. No empire lasts forever. By 1031, internal strife and the weight of maintaining a vast bureaucracy led to the collapse of the unified caliphate of Córdoba. In its place arose the taifas, small independent kingdoms. While this weakened the Moors militarily, it created a unique cultural phenomenon. Every small king wanted his court to be as grand as Córdoba. Cities like Seville and Toledo became centers of art and poetry. The Giralda Tower in Seville, originally a minaret, remains one of the most beautiful examples of Almohad architecture. However, the lack of a central military force allowed the Christian kingdoms of the north, Leon, Castile, and Aragon, to begin the slow process known as the Reconquista. Even as the Christian kings conquered Moorish cities, they were captivated by Moorish culture. King Alfonso VI of Castile called himself the Emperor of the Two Religions. He hired Moorish architects to build his palaces. This created the Mudéjar style, a uniquely Spanish fusion where Christian buildings were decorated with Islamic geometric patterns and calligraphy. By the 13th century, only the Kingdom of Granada remained. For 250 years, the Nasrids survived through clever diplomacy and the natural defenses of the Sierra Nevada mountains. This era gave us the Alhambra. To walk through the Court of the Lions is to see the pinnacle of Moorish art, the delicate stucco muqarnas that look like stalactites, and the reflective pools that bring the sky down to the earth. The end came not with a bang, but with a sigh. In January 1492, Muhammad II, known as Boabdil, surrendered the keys of Granada to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. Legend says that as he rode away, he looked back at the city and wept. His mother famously told him, "Do not weep like a woman for what you could not defend like a man." The fall of Granada was followed by the forced conversion and eventual expulsion of the Moors. They fled to North Africa, taking their music, their cuisine, and their architectural styles with them. But they left an indelible mark on Europe. We see the modern Spanish language. Words like ojala, from inshallah, arroz, and algodón, We see the Renaissance, which would have been impossible without the preservation of Greek texts by Moorish scholars. We see the very layout of European cities. The story of the Moors is not a story of them and us. It is a story of how a brilliant, diverse culture once turned a dark corner of Europe into the light of the world.